Very good morning to you. How are you? I do hope that you are well. And today, welcome to our first class for this semester. And we shall basically look at the first topic, which is Introduction to Nutrition and Diet Therapy. When you talk about nutrition, what comes to your mind? Maybe just before we focus on that, I shall take you through maybe a few objectives as we go through this session for today. And I'll first introduce to you aspects of nutrition and this topic. So nutrition is basically a process by which substances in food are transformed into body tissues and provide energy for the full range of physical and mental activities that make up human life. It's basically actually, in summary, it's like the process whereby we have ingestion. When you eat food, we call it ingestion. The process where we do ingestion, where there's ingestion, then there's what? Digestion, where food starts moving in the body and it's broken down. Then there is absorption. The food has to be absorbed in the body. Then assimilation or utilization, where the nutrients are now actually utilized in the body muscles and other parts of the body. And eventually we have excretion. Now that is the entire process of nutrition. The food substances are transformed into body tissues and provide energy for the full range of physical and mental activities that make up human life. For you to listen to this audio, for you to sit and concentrate in class, for you to do your homeworks, do your exams and concentrate, whatever you do, for you to move around, that is physical. For you to move around, for you to sit down. So with all this, we need proper nutrition. So the study of human nutrition is interdisciplinary in character, involving not only physiology, biochemistry and molecular biology, but also finds such as psychology and anthropology, which explore the influence of attitudes, beliefs, preferences, and cultural traditions on food choices. So human nutrition further touches on economics and political science as the world community recognizes and responds to the suffering and death caused by malnutrition. The ultimate goal of nutritional science is to promote optimal health and reduce the risk of chronic diseases such as cardiovascular diseases. Those are diseases actually associated with the heart and cancers, as well as to prevent classic nutritional deficiency diseases like the cases of kwashiorkor and marasmus. Now, in summary, what I'm saying is that nutrition is more than just the food we eat. It's a science that encompasses all interactions that occur between living organisms and food. And I've mentioned that these interactions include ingestion, digestion, absorption, utilization, and transportation, and eventually excretion when the food remains are excreted outside the body. Nutrition also includes biological actions and interactions of food in the body and their consequences for health and disease. Remember, from what we eat, there's a saying that says you're what you eat. So what you eat will be transformed into who you are. Like if you overeat, you do a lot of carbohydrates, a lot of fats. Because of the high energies present, you're likely to become overweight or obese. So we've said that issues to do with nutrition include the psychological, social, cultural, economic, and technological factors. And these factors are actually the ones that influence the foods we eat. And that tells us that there's a topic that we shall cover in terms of food commodities and to see how and why people make certain food choices. Another issue that I've touched on is that the biological importance of food is dictated by the nutrients it contains. Every food has a specific nutrient, and you'll find that again in specific foods, for example, in oranges, in lemons, or rather in citrus fruits, we have vitamin C. You may find that some other fruits that are likely to offer vitamin C, but in very small quantities. There are those that could offer vitamin A, like the carrots, it's plenty, but you may find it in other fruits like the guavas, it may not be as plenty. It could have more vitamin C than A. So we shall explore that and other aspects of food such as taste, color, smell, texture, presentation, and packaging that help determine its psychological, cultural, social, and personal value. Now, the objectives of this topic today are that by the end of this lesson is that you should be able to define the terminology used in nutrition, should be able to classify nutrients, state nutrient needs of the body, and also state the consequences of poor nutrition. Of course, you shall also be able to understand, or rather be able to explain the meaning of diet therapy. So food is basically something that we eat that is able to nourish the body. So for people like pregnant women, there are those who start craving for stones, others crave for feces, others crave for what else? What else have you had women crave for? Or sometimes even unpregnant women, there's some men also who crave for soil. You know, people crave for funny things. Those are not food. They're substances that people will eat, but you see, they don't have any nutrient that they're bringing to them. A food is anything that would nourish the body that has a nutrient. So what is a nutrient for that? These are substances in foods that are required by the body for growth, maintenance, and reproduction. Remember, these are the body processes: growth, maintenance, and reproduction. So they do provide energy, contribute to structure, and regulate biological processes. And to date, we have approximately 45 nutrients and are considered essential to human life. So nutrients considered essential if it must be taken in from outside the body, in most cases from food. Although they are separated into categories, one should keep in mind that nutrients work in collaboration with each other in the body, not as isolated entities. So remember, when we talk about a balanced diet, we are basically talking about different kinds of foods, different nutrients being consumed together at a meal. So it's important that we consume them wholesomely so that we can be able to benefit from them. In I've mentioned about essential nutrients, and these ones are the ones that are required for normal body functioning and that cannot be synthesized by the body at all. The body can never produce them in any way. And for such, they have to be provided in what? In our normal diets. And usually these ones are the micronutrients. We have the essential ones and the non-essential ones. Non-essential ones are the ones that can easily be synthesized partly within the body. So non-essential substances can be made by the body. For example, lecithin, which is needed for nerve functioning, and it's not an essential nutrient because it can be made in the body from other substances. On the other hand, vitamin A, which is needed for vision, is essential in the human diet because it cannot be made by the human body. Now we have different classes of nutrients, and I know that you have an idea of the different kinds of nutrients that we have. I know you've heard of carbohydrates, you've heard of proteins, you've heard of lipids, you've heard of micronutrients, which are comprised of the vitamins and minerals, and also we do have water. So each type of nutrient, remember, has a specific purpose and meets a specific need that the body has. Now, when we talk about water, remember your body is made up about 60% of water. Your blood is full of water, 80% of it is water, or rather it's very liquid in itself. Of course, it has the protein part. So many at the time that we ask ourselves, is water a nutrient in a class by itself? Yes, water is a nutrient on its own. So it's quite important because your body uses 24 hours in a day water. So you need water, at least 8 glasses. Remember, it will help you function as a solvent, a lubricant, a transport medium, and a regulator of body temperature. So it does not provide energy at all. So when you take water, you won't grow fat, you won't increase in your weight because you're taking water. All right, maybe now we can look at the macronutrients. We usually have two classes. We have macronutrients and micronutrients, two classes of nutrients, macro and micro. Macro just means large or big. So macronutrient means that the nutrients are in the body in large amounts. So they constitute actually the majority of our diets, and therefore they do supply quite an amount of energy. There are essential nutrients that are needed for growth, maintenance, and activity. Macronutrients include carbohydrates, proteins, the fats, oils, which make up the lipids. We have macro minerals and also water. But basically, we usually focus on the major three plus water. the carbohydrates, proteins, lipids, and water. But of course, we have the other classes of the protective foods, the fruits and vegetables making up the minerals and the vitamins, Yeah. So they are usually, as you consume them, the carbohydrates, proteins, and fats, they're interchangeable as sources of energy, with fats yielding at least 9 calories per gram, and proteins and carbohydrates each yielding 4 kilocalories per gram. Remember that from every food that we eat, there's some energy that we get from it, especially the carbohydrates, the proteins, and the lipids. Now, remember, when food is actually measured in terms of kilocalories, the energy found present in foods is measured in terms of kilocalories. So, for every 1 gram of fat, you get 9 kilocalories. If you consume a whole bowl of chips that has been used, remember, chips are deep fried, the bhajias are deep fried. So as you eat as much as that, you're consuming a lot of fat. That is why you find that people who consume junk foods, such as the high sugars and these fats, you're likely to gain more energy, of which you're not spending. So it's encouraged for the fat just use a little, like the size of your thumb, the upper part of your thumb. That means at least 1 teaspoon for you in a meal, or 1 tablespoon is sufficient, so that across the day you are not using much in your food, whether through margarine as you apply on your bread or you use your baked products. It's important. Then with the protein, say that every 1 gram yields 4 kilocalories. So again, with protein and carbohydrates, the yields 4 kilocalories, and that tells us that it's important to consume them, yes, but not in bulk, just sufficiently, as we shall learn later when we'll be looking at our fourth topic on AS. Right. About carbohydrates in specific, usually we do have sugars, whereby we do have the simple carbohydrates and the complex carbohydrates. So with the sugars, usually most of them will come from the simple carbohydrates. Of course, carbohydrates, basically the building block, the smallest building block is glucose. So from most of the food, we are likely to get glucose, which is actually energy, that we call it sugars in the body. So you do have the simple carbohydrates and the complex carbohydrates. And usually they're made by many sugars linked together. They provide a readily available source of energy. Fruits, vegetables, and grains are the main sources of carbohydrates in the diet. And we also have fiber, which is a form of carbohydrate, but really will it provide energy? It will just help in the process of eliminating waste product from the body. It makes food be in like a blast. The food move through the large intestine to the rectum and out of the body through the anus. Then we do have the proteins. The proteins, they provide structure and regulation of body processes, and they're made of amino acids. Some amino acids can be made by the body, and others are essential in the diet. You have to provide them from the diet. So usually dietary protein must be provided in right combination of the amino acids, so that you are able to get enough. Remember, the plant proteins and animal proteins yield different types of amino acids. Usually with the animal protein, they'll yield the amino acids that are readily absorbed within the body. The iron is highly available, and the protein is also available to the system. So meat, milk, grains, and legumes are good dietary sources of protein. About lipids, remember lipids are grouped as fats and oils, or rather they're broken down to fats and oils. Fats are in solid form, and that will include the margarines like the Prestige, Blue Band, and those others that we use. And the oils will include these oily, the liquid food that we use in cooking, so like Rina, which other one of, yeah, think of such. Salit, yeah. We do have olive oil. So the oils are part of lipids. Fats are also part of lipids. When we talk about fats, I mentioned the margarines, and also we have the cooking fats that are commonly used, like the cowboy, Kimbo, the list is long. So most lipids contain fatty acids, several of which are essential nutrients, and lipids in the diet include fats, oils that occur naturally in the food, and those that are added in food are added in cooking at the table. So basically that is what is known as the macronutrients. Remember, that alcohol will yield a lot of energy. But is alcohol a nutrient? Is alcohol a food? It's consumed. But is it a nutrient? Is it essential to our body? No. But for those people who consume it, it provides energy, and actually lots of energy next to the fats. For every 1 gram of alcohol, the 1 gram yields 7 kilocalories. So that tells you people who take alcohol have tummies, they have the front office. Yeah, they're likely to have fats accumulated around their waists or their tummies. Micronutrients, in a nutshell, mentioned that these are just vitamins and minerals. And with vitamins, we have quite a number. Vitamins are usually grouped in terms of whatever they provide. Like we do have vitamin A, B, C, D, we have E, we have K, yeah. And with the B vitamins, they're usually also called the B complex, because they're grouped by different their different functionalities. The B complex, you'll find that we have B1, B2, B3, B5, B6, B9, and we also have B12, and we have folate, which is B9. We do have biotin. So usually vitamins and minerals are basically found in fruit and vegetables. That is why there's a slogan when HIV was becoming a scourge in the world, and maybe Kenya, that people are being reminded that kunywa awa, kula vizuri, kula matunda, So basically, when we eat a healthy diet, it needs to also have a balanced diet. Should have at least fruits and vegetables. And vitamins, they're organic substances that are made by plants or animals. Minerals are inorganic elements that come from the earth, soil, and water, and are absorbed by plants. So we'll get them from both animals and plants, but the minerals, most of the time, we get them from the soil, water, and they're absorbed by plants. So animals and humans absorb minerals from the plants they eat. That means that when you eat an animal that has been fed on enough minerals, then you'll be able to get those minerals from the meats of these animals to your body. So vitamins and minerals are nutrients that your body needs to grow and develop normally, and have the following characteristics. One of the characteristics is that the amount required is expressed in milligrams or micrograms. So unlike the others that we are talking about, kilocalories, the macronutrients, these ones we express them in what? Milligrams, mgs, or micrograms. They do not provide energy but help regulate the production of energy from macronutrients. So they aid in producing energy, but truly they don't really provide energy. That is why you get informed that if someone wants to cut weight, someone is overweight or obese and wants to cut on weight, usually with the diet, we usually minimize on the carbohydrate intake. We limit a bit of the protein, or we may increase because of the muscle. But mostly we work on the carbs so that we can, and the fats, so that you can reduce the energy intake, and then do more of the vegetables and fruits, which actually help one to feel full, but they do not provide energy to make you increase. Again, vitamins and minerals are found in most of the foods we eat, and fresh foods are generally the best sources of vitamins and minerals, because storage, processing, and cooking often result in losses. And many of the vitamins and minerals in today's diet come from those intentionally added to food during manufacturing or from nutritional supplements. So nutrients in the body, basically macro and micronutrients, they function in terms of giving us what energy, as we've mentioned, structure, and regulation. So energy comes as one of the top issues, because if you don't have energy, then we'll just find you collapsing. You'll pass out, because remember, even your brain is a simple glucose. So you lack energy, then you're not likely to function well. Structure and regulation, then, which by the body needs for growth, maintenance, and reproduction. So the body will need all these macronutrients for functioning in terms of growth, maintenance, and reproduction. And these one actually provide energy. They help structure and regulation within the body. I mentioned about kilocalories, and I said it's just the energy needed for all body processes and activities, which is essential for the body. So you can have a look at our notes, and you shall be able to acquaint yourself with what I've already mentioned in terms of what every nutrient provides, how much energy every nutrient provides. How much nutrients do you need? How much of each nutrient do you need? I know sometimes we get to ask ourselves these questions. So remember, to support health and maintain health, nutrients must not only be supplied, they must be supplied in appropriate amounts. This one again, we shall cover it more when we shall be looking at the dietary requirements in our fourth topic. But meanwhile, remember that if you undertake the nutrients, if you take them in small amounts that are not sufficient to meet the body's health needs, to maintain, to support life, then you're likely to have what you call deficiencies. And usually both deficiencies and excess of nutrients can affect health either in short term or over a lifetime. The amount of nutrients needed by the body depends on the nutrient functions as well as needs of the individuals. So what's the effect of too much or too little nutrients? When you take in too little, you're likely to result in deficiencies. Like we do have kwashiorkor, we have marasmus, we have pellagra, we do have iron deficiency, anemia, and when you take too much, you're likely to become overnourished and you're likely to suffer. So we're saying that there's some conditions that are likely to result in either too much or too little intake of nutrients, and all this we refer to as malnutrition. In my introduction, I'd mentioned that mal means what? Mal means what? Deviation from the normal. So it's just like out of place. It's out of order. Malnutrition. So malnutrition means either overnutrition or undernutrition. It doesn't specifically point to undernutrition, but in most cases, what comes to our minds when we talk about malnutrition, people think of undernutrition. They think of kwashiorkor, they think of marasmus, they think of such, and this will result into some organ failures in the body if you're not careful. So about undernutrition is basically about the deficiencies of individual nutrients which occur in the body. It could have been because of a deficiency of the nutrients. It could be because of starvation. And the most severe form of undernutrition is a deficiency of energy that causes weight loss, decreased ability to work, the ability to reproduce, and also severe. It can, if it's quite severe, it can lead to death. We shall again look at that. We have a topic on deficiencies. We shall focus more on that when that time comes. But meanwhile, you can just go through the reading of what we have in short notes. About diet, why is nutrition important? Why will we engage in nutrition? It's because remember that if you take a poor diet, can lead to energy imbalance, whereby it may be more calories than the one you spend physical activity, and can increase risk for weight and obesity. There's also that can increase the risk for lung, esophageal, colorectal, and prostate cancers. Individuals who eat fast food 1 or more times per week are at increased risk of weight gain, overweight, or obesity. Fast foods, we understand that the likes of bajia, soda, juice, not the fruit juice that is fresh. These other those other fruits that have already been processed and are available in the supermarkets and shops. Again, we have it that drinking sugar sweetened beverages can result in weight gain, and therefore providing access to drinking water gives students a healthy alternative to sugar sweetened beverages, or you as an individual or those people that you have around. So that tells us that it's important to intake the right amounts of nutrients so that we do what? Importance of nutrition, basically to help maintain growth, promote growth, maintenance of body tissues, and also reproduction. And remember, we need proper structure of the body. We need energies for this body so that you're able not to be malnourished. The nutrition deficiency is highlighted in our notes. We usually have, in terms of nutrition, the primary signs and symptoms. We take the diet history, declining stores of the nutrients, and the normal functions inside the body. We do the laboratory tests, like of the body fluids, the saliva, the blood, urine, and then we have the physical the outward signals, symptoms that we check through physical examination and anthropometric measures. We do the weight, the height, whereby we do the BMI, we'll do the check the muscle fat. We are likely also to do some mark upper arm circumference measures, especially in the underfades, Yeah, and we shall be able to know where the problem is. Physical examination, we check the eyes, the tongue, maybe for iron deficiency. If one has a pale tongue, pale fingernails, palms, the eyelids, they are likely to be anemic. Out of nutrition, mentioned in a nutshell again, it's about taking in excess of nutrients. Of malnutrition, and when food is consumed in excess of energy needs, the extra is stored as body fat, and some fat is necessary. Some fat is necessary to insulate the body. So an excess of obesity increases the risk for many chronic diseases such as high blood pressure, and diabetes. So short and long-term effects of poor nutrition. Remember that basically you're likely to become malnourished in terms of being underweight. And if it's overnutrition, are likely to be overweight, obese, and it's likely to lead to the lifestyle conditions like diabetes, cancer, the kidney-related issues, and undernutrition could also lead to some organ failures and such like. Maybe we'll look at diet therapy in brief. Diet therapy is whereby you find that the normal diets have to be modified, especially in terms of sicknesses. So we have it that proper nutrition plays a key role in both the prevention and treatment of many chronic diseases and disorders. So the practice of therapeutic nutrition, that is diet therapy, involves the provision of nutrients to maintain and or restore optimal nutrition and health. And here we are just going to modify the normal diets, and you modify the normal diets, the normal way we eat, to suit a specific given disease condition. So the critical role of nutrition in the prevention of disease, health promotion, and chronic disease management is undisputed. And nutrition intervention is a low-cost and effective way to promote health, because everybody eats, and with guidance and attention to what they eat, people can improve their nutrition and health status. Remember, our intention is to do what? Maintain optimal nutrition status. So at every age, we need to ensure that we do contribute in prevention of chronic diseases, less frequent episodes of illnesses, and even shorter, less expensive hospital stays. So there are several factors that determine dietary modification, of which you have nature of the disease and symptoms. So depending on the nature of the disease, like does it make someone lose a lot of energy? Is this disease making someone vomit a lot, is able to eat? The nature of the disease, where is it affecting in the body? Then severity of the disease or symptoms, that is the condition of the patient. Is the patient able to eat? Is the patient able to retain food? Because remember, nutrition, we said, it's the entire process whereby you have to ingest, digest, then absorb, assimilate, or utilize, and then excrete. Metabolic changes involved in the disease process and the nutritional implications. Is there a lot of sweating in this disease? Because those diseases that make someone to sweat a lot, because when you sweat again, you lose energy. So nutritional status of the patient is another determining factor, whereby you look at the condition of this patient. Is the patient already malnourished at the point when he or she got sick, or is the patient okay? So you look at the nutritional status of the patient and then physiological state. Is the patient pregnant? Is the patient chronically ill? Is the patient lactating? Is the patient, whatever condition that person is, you need to establish and see what will work best. But the most common therapeutic diet adaptation will be change consistency, like providing soft or liquid diets. Then we do also have the change. We do have the change in energy content, whereby we increase or reduce the energy content. We do have the change content itself, like is it high or low protein that we need, sodium restricted diets or controlled fat restricted diets, then change in the fiber content, and also change in the frequency of feeding, change the mode of feeding, and also exclusion of certain foods in confirmed and severe allergic conditions. So basically, with this lesson, we've just had an overview of nutrition, the importance and consequences of poor nutrition, and we've also touched on the issues of diet therapy, in just introducing what it means and how important it is, and how foods can be, how they can be modified so as to meet specific disease conditions. So I hope that we should interact more in our live class. You'll have to listen into this so you can be able to have more knowledge on the same. And if you have any questions, kindly feel free to ask and make some notes from your work. Thank you.